I bought the webcam from a guy named CamGod77 on an old tech forum. He'd listed it as lightly used, but the price was dirt cheap, $20, including shipping. I figured, what the hell? My old webcam had started glitching, dropping frames, freezing up midstream, and the idea of shelling out over $100 for a new one made my stomach turn. The box came 2 days later in a thin, reused Amazon envelope. No padding, no receipt, just the cam and a short USB cable that smelled vaguely like smoke. The plastic was warm to the touch, like it had been sitting too close to a radiator. There were tiny nicks around the lens housing, and the Logitech logo had been rubbed almost smooth. I didn't care. I just wanted something functional so I could keep my stream schedule. I do small horror game streams on Twitch, Dead Hours Gaming, nothing major. I've got a loyal little base of maybe 70 regulars who drop by for late night spooks, and on a good night, I break 100 viewers. I've been grinding for affiliate for a while, and the last thing I needed was hardware sabotaging me. The night I installed the new cam, I didn't think anything of it. Plugged it in, let the drivers install, and launched OBS to test the video feed before going live. But when the preview loaded, I wasn't there. Instead, I was looking at a room I didn't recognize. At first, I thought maybe the driver defaulted to some kind of virtual background setting, or that it was pulling from an old test image cached somewhere. But I hadn't configured any of that. I hadn't even launched any filters yet. The room was dimly lit, low yellowish light from somewhere above. It looked like concrete, floor, walls, and ceiling. A single chair sat in the middle of the space, angled just enough that it wasn't facing the camera directly. The room was bare otherwise. No decorations, no windows, no sound. I stared at it, thinking it had to be some kind of default image. But the video feed wasn't static. There was slight flicker to the light, like the bulb overhead was straining. Dust motes floated lazily across the frame. It was a live feed. I leaned forward, my nose nearly touching the screen, expecting to see something move, but nothing did. Just that damn chair, sitting there like it was waiting for someone. I disconnected the webcam. Instantly, OBS defaulted back to my laptop's internal cam, and there I was. Rumpled hoodie, backward cap, faint circles under my eyes from too many sleepless nights. I plugged the new cam back in, and immediately the concrete room returned. It was unmistakably a live image from somewhere else. I didn't go live that night. I told my Discord the cam was acting up and I needed to troubleshoot. Most of them took it in stride. Tech gremlins, they said. One guy even joked, just means you're due for a haunted stream. I didn't laugh. I didn't feel like joking. Over the next hour, I tried everything. Switching USB ports, uninstalling and reinstalling drivers, even plugging it into my girlfriend's old MacBook just to see if it was my system. Every time, it was the same. The feed showed that room. No serial number lookup helped either. The back of the cam had a barely legible label. Model number matched a discontinued Logitech unit from about 6 years ago. But the serial came up blank in every search engine I tried. I posted on a few tech forums, got the usual snark. Maybe it's a baby monitor, maybe it's your basement, maybe it's hell. No real help. I emailed the seller through the forum. The message bounced. Account deleted. That night, I left the webcam unplugged and sat in bed with my laptop, scrubbing frame by frame through some recordings I took of the room. Still nothing. No movement, no change in lighting, just a motionless chair and a lifeless concrete box. Eventually, I fell asleep with my laptop still open beside me. When I woke up, the feed was black. Not off, black, like someone had shut off the lights on the other end. There was no error, no freeze. The feed was still live, just completely dark. Then, slowly, a small circle of light started to glow in the upper frame. The bulb had come back on. The chair was gone. I sat up so fast I nearly knocked the laptop to the floor. I waited, heart pounding in my throat, watching the feed. There was no sound, but the silence felt heavy, like a pressure inside my ears. My cursor hovered over the record button, but I didn't press it. I didn't want to see it again later. I just watched. After almost 2 full minutes, the light flickered and the chair returned, exact same position as before. Only, it was angled a little differently now, more toward the lens, and there was something new. A faint, dark smear across the floor beneath it, like something had been dragged. I shut the laptop and went to make coffee, hands shaking the whole time. The next night, I did go live. I used the internal cam. Everything was normal. My chat was full of jokes. Where's the haunted chair cam? I told them it was busted. Moved on. Played some low-res indie horror game about a haunted farmhouse. Didn't even finish the first act before ending the stream early. I didn't want to be in front of a camera, not when I didn't know who or what might be watching back. That weekend, I boxed up the webcam and stuck it in the hall closet. Out of sight, out of mind, or so I thought. I started having these dreams. In them, I'm sitting in the same chair from the feed. I'm in that concrete room. The bulb flickers above me. I can't move. My arms and legs feel bound, though nothing is tying them. My head is heavy, lolling forward, but I can't see what's in front of me. Just the faint outline of the camera lens, red light glowing. Then the bulb goes out, and something breathes near my face. I always wake up right after that, drenched in sweat, heart pounding like I've been running for hours. Every time I wake up, I check the closet to make sure the camera is still boxed up. It always is. Still taped shut, still tucked behind the toolbox on the top shelf. I started drinking more at night, just enough to knock me out without dreaming. I told myself it was just a weird fluke, a busted webcam showing some old internal footage looped by accident. But part of me didn't believe that. Part of me wondered if maybe the camera wasn't broken. Maybe it was working perfectly. 2 weeks after I put it away, the dreams stopped. I started sleeping again, streaming again. Things got back to normal. I thought maybe I'd let it go. Then one afternoon I came back from getting groceries and found the camera sitting on my desk. The box was still taped shut in the closet, but the camera, that camera, was sitting on my desk. USB cord coiled neatly beside it, facing the chair I use for streaming. Staring at it, like it had never been put away, like it had just come back. I didn't touch it at first. I stood in the doorway of my office for a solid 2 minutes, watching the webcam sit there, dead center on the desk, just like I always used to place it before streams. The little lens pointed right at my chair, right at the spot where I always sat. The USB cable, coiled like a waiting snake, glinted faintly under the overhead light. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I tried to convince myself that I must have forgotten putting it there. Maybe I had a late-night moment of curiosity I didn't remember. Maybe I'd sleepwalked. Or maybe my girlfriend, Amanda, had found it and taken it out as a joke. But she was out of town that weekend, visiting her sister in Michigan. She'd left 2 days ago. Still, I called her. She picked up on the second ring, voice groggy. I forgot about the time difference. "No," she said, after I asked her. "I didn't touch your creepy-ass webcam, Alex. I haven't even been in the apartment for 2 days. Are you okay?" I wanted to say yes. I wanted to pretend I was just being paranoid, that there had to be some dumb explanation, that it was all just a buildup of stress and late nights and insomnia. But I couldn't bring myself to lie. "No," I said, "not really." She offered to come home early. I told her not to. I think part of me already understood that this thing, this presence, was aimed at me and me alone. After we hung up, I finally stepped into the room. The camera looked clean, untouched. No dust on the plastic casing. No signs of it being jostled or dropped. It looked almost new now, like it had wanted to be back, like it had waited for me. I should have thrown it out. I should have smashed it with a hammer, or dumped it in a dumpster across town, or mailed it to some tech recycling center in a state I'd never visit. Instead, I sat down in my chair. The familiar creak greeted me, and I stared at the camera. I didn't plug it in. I didn't need to. I knew what it would show me. Still, part of me needed to see, needed to know if it had changed, needed to confirm that it wasn't just some weird loop, some bizarre data feed from a forgotten place. Maybe the room would be gone. Maybe it was all in my head, a mental imprint that lived only in memory. I plugged in the USB cable. The moment I did, my monitor lit up. No software open, no webcam window launched, just static for a half second. Then the feed snapped on full screen. No driver install, no setup screen. It simply was. The room looked the same, but different. The concrete was darker now, damp. There were discolorations on the floor, blooming out in warped, irregular rings like water damage, except the water wasn't clear. The bulb still hung overhead, flickering erratically, but now it buzzed. A deep electrical hum that vibrated in my bones. The chair remained, but something had changed. It was angled more directly at the camera now, almost facing me. The dark smear under it had grown. I couldn't tell what it was, blood, mold, rot, but it had spread like veins across the floor. Then I noticed the scratch marks. Along the floor, near the chair's legs, were long, straight gouges, fresh. Not like someone had moved the chair, like someone had been dragging it over and over again, carving tracks into the concrete. I leaned closer, eyes squinting. There was movement, not in the center of the frame, not the chair, not the bulb behind the chair. Near the far wall, just for a moment, something had shifted, something low and small, barely within the edge of the camera's narrow vision. Like a figure moving just out of sight, I jumped, pulling my face back from the screen. The webcam's feed didn't stutter, it didn't flicker, it just kept showing the same slow scene, unchanged, as if daring me to come back. I hovered my cursor over the disconnect button. The webcam's light flared. The red recording indicator, one I had never activated, blinked once, then disappeared. My screen went black. My apartment was silent. I waited. Nothing happened. I exhaled slowly, trying to convince myself I hadn't seen what I thought I had. That it was a glitch, that maybe I was projecting, maybe I was letting the imagery get under my skin. Then my speakers crackled. No software was running. No audio feed should have been active. But something hissed into the silence, low, distant, breathy. I turned the volume all the way down. The sound kept going. It wasn't coming from the speakers. It was coming from the webcam, not through it, from inside it. It was so faint I had to lean in to hear it. And when I did, I realized it wasn't static. It was something else. Something softer, whispering. I couldn't make out the words. Not exactly, but it was definitely a voice, repeating something over and over, just beneath the threshold of hearing. It sounded wrong, warped, like it had been stretched thin, slowed down. My phone buzzed beside me. I jumped, grabbed it, an unknown number calling. I stared at it, heart racing. Something told me not to answer. I let it ring until it stopped. A voicemail pinged 5 seconds later. I opened it. It was only 3 seconds long. No words, no message, just the exact same whispering sound coming from the webcam, recorded, clearer, closer. I dropped the phone. I yanked the webcam's USB cable out of the port so hard the plastic head cracked. The device tumbled to the floor. I kicked it under the desk. My laptop screen flickered. A window opened. Not one I'd clicked, not one I'd launched, just a gray window. Blank, except for a single message typed in black courier font. Do not unplug. The text vanished. The screen went black again. I sat there, frozen, staring at my reflection in the dark screen. The hum in the room, subtle, just at the edge of hearing, slowly faded. For a long time, I didn't move. That night, I slept in the living room with the lights on, the webcam still under the desk where I'd kicked it. Every creak in the apartment made my eyes snap open. Every tick of the heater made me flinch. I didn't dream. I didn't let myself. The next morning, I called off work and brought the camera to the dumpster behind the building. I wrapped it in a towel first, then in a plastic bag, and shoved it deep into the bin. I didn't want to see it again. I didn't want to feel it again. I spent the rest of the day in bed, door closed, laptop off. That night, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number, no caller ID, just the same voicemail notification. I opened it. The whispering was louder now. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on the couch under a throw blanket, fully dressed, shoes on, every light in the apartment burning. The voicemail played again and again in my head, even though I hadn't replayed it. I didn't need to. The sound was imprinted, soft, rhythmic, hypnotic. By 3 a.m., I started to worry that maybe I was losing it. I checked the closet again. The original box, taped shut weeks ago, was still there, untouched. I hadn't used it to transport the camera to the dumpster, which meant there was no way the device could have come back on its own again. Right? I made coffee, poured half of it down the sink. Then I grabbed my flashlight, pulled on a hoodie, and made my way down to the alley behind the building. The dumpster was still there, still closed. I didn't want to look inside. I really didn't. But part of me needed to see, needed proof that I hadn't imagined the whole thing, that the webcam was gone, buried under a week's worth of food waste and cardboard. The lid groaned as I opened it. The stench hit me like a punch. I covered my mouth and aimed my flashlight into the bin. There were pizza boxes, a broken fan, a soaked mattress pad, but no sign of the bag I'd wrapped the webcam in, no towel, nothing that looked remotely like it. I didn't move for a full minute. The alley was quiet, too quiet. The air was still. No wind, no traffic, no late-night hum of city life. Even the distant sirens I was used to had gone silent, like the world was waiting. I closed the dumpster, went back upstairs, locked the door behind me, and slid the chain into place. I even wedged a chair under the knob for good measure. When I turned around, the webcam was back on my desk, not facing the chair this time. It was facing the door. I screamed, not a yell or a shout, an involuntary gasping sound that came from somewhere deep and primitive. I didn't touch it. I couldn't. I stood in the center of the room, fists clenched, mouth dry, trying to breathe through the rising pressure in my skull. My laptop chimed. The screen turned on by itself. No boot up, no login screen, just the feed, the room, the chair. It was still there, same position, same angle. But now the concrete floor was covered in something. A thin layer of black water, or oil, that reflected the hanging bulb's yellow light. The chair sat in the middle of it, legs disappearing into the slick surface. And behind the chair, a door. There hadn't been a door before, but now, halfway down the back wall, embedded in concrete, was a rectangular shape, wooden, warped, with a tarnished brass handle. The top of the frame sagged slightly, like the weight of whatever was behind it had bent the wall outward. As I watched, the bulb flickered, and the chair shifted. Not moved, twitched, as if something beneath the floor had nudged it. The liquid around it rippled outward, and the chair rotated, just an inch, just enough to face the camera a little more directly. My phone buzzed. I didn't look at it. I couldn't. The screen was still displaying the feed. My heart pounded in my ears. Then the bulb went out again. The screen didn't go black this time. The image remained, but dim. Shadows swelled across the room. Only the faintest spill of light came from somewhere unseen, like moonlight filtered through a drain. I leaned closer. I don't know why. That's when I saw the eyes, two small white glints, like pinpricks reflecting in the dark, not high up, low, below the chair just above the surface of the water. They didn't blink. They didn't move. They just watched. My vision swam. I yanked the lid of the laptop down and collapsed backward into my chair, gripping the armrest so hard my knuckles popped. What the hell was this? What had I brought into my home? I didn't touch the laptop again until morning, not even to close the lid completely. It sat half shut on the desk like a loaded mousetrap, silent and humming. I took a shower that ran longer than it needed to. I just stood there, letting the hot water scald my skin, eyes closed, trying to think. When I got out, the steam on the bathroom mirror had begun to clear, revealing the words written in long, dripping strokes. "You looked." I stumbled back, nearly slipping. The steam had come from the water. There was no way anyone could have written that without me noticing. No one else had been in the apartment. The door was still locked, the chain still in place. I wiped the mirror, checked every room, opened every closet. Nothing. Eventually, I picked up my phone. No new messages, but the old voicemail from the night before, it had changed. I listened again. No whispering this time. Instead, it was the chair creaking. Over and over, back and forth, then a splash, then silence, then a single sharp tap, as if someone had rapped their knuckle on glass, watching, waiting. I deleted the message, powered off my phone, disconnected my router, yanked the battery from my smoke detector, and turned off the breaker that fed power to my office. None of it mattered. That night, The laptop turned on by itself, even without power, even without Wi-Fi, even with the webcam cord missing. The screen lit up at 1:03 a.m. I know because I was awake, lying motionless on the couch, staring into the dark like a corpse trying not to breathe. The hum started again, low, vibrating through the floor, through the bones of the building. I crept to the doorway, phone light off, moving as slow as I could. The feed was on. The camera was broadcasting the room again, only now the door in the back wall was open. Just a few inches, just enough to show blackness beyond, a deeper dark than the room itself. A shadow within a shadow. The chair sat motionless in front of it, but now something rested on the seat, something small, rectangular. I leaned against the doorframe, holding my breath, trying to parse it. It was a box just like the one I'd kept the webcam in. I stood there until the sun rose, until the room on the screen faded into gray and the light from the overhead bulb became irrelevant. The door was still open. The box was still on the chair, and beneath the feed, a new window had opened. This one just had a single blinking prompt. Do you want to see more? I didn't click anything. My hand hovered over the trackpad for a full minute, index finger twitching above the left button. That blinking prompt, do you want to see more, wasn't a question. Not really. It felt more like a challenge, a dare whispered from the bottom of a well. I shut the lid. I didn't power down the laptop. I didn't unplug anything. I just closed it and walked out of the room. The hum didn't stop. I could feel it, like a subtle tremor running through the walls and floorboards. I pressed my hand to the hallway plaster and felt the vibration gently fluttering under the surface. Like a living wire had been threaded through the bones of the apartment. I stayed in the bedroom with the door shut for hours. I read, watched old sitcom reruns with the volume low, even made food. But that question, do you want to see more, hung behind my eyes no matter what I did. I knew the real question wasn't if I wanted to see more, it was what would happen if I said no. Around 4 p.m., I heard the faintest sound from the office, a soft tap like a knuckle on plastic. Then another. I couldn't take it anymore. I went back in. The laptop screen was open. I hadn't opened it. The feed was still live, the room still there. The door in the concrete wall wider now, open halfway, blackness inside like the interior of a sealed tomb. The chair had moved again, just a little, closer to the camera, almost as if it had turned to face it more directly. The box on the chair was gone. In its place now sat something else. At first, I thought it was a photograph. I leaned closer. It was a photograph, but not just any photo. It was a picture of my office, taken from the same angle as the webcam feed. My chair, my desk, the shelves, the window, all of it identical, down to the jacket slung over the back of the chair. And in the middle of the frame, on my desk, was the same webcam. I staggered back. I didn't want to look at the feed anymore. I wanted to throw the laptop against the wall, scream, burn the entire apartment down. But I couldn't move. I was pinned. The photograph on the chair trembled. A gust of air stirred the room's shadows. The water on the concrete floor rippled outward. Something moved behind the open door. Something large. It didn't step into view. Not yet, but I could feel it, pressing against the frame, dragging fingers along the inside of the wall. A whisper curled from my speakers, too soft to hear clearly but rhythmically slow, intentional. Then, without transition, a new image replaced the feed. It was my office, live. I stared at myself staring at the screen, a slight delay, like a livestream buffer. My lights were dimmer than I remembered, the shadows deeper. The chair behind me moved. I spun, hard in my throat, but there was nothing there. When I turned back, the feed was no longer showing my office. It was back to the concrete room. The photo on the chair was gone. The chair was now facing away from the camera, as if it had lost interest in watching. Then something stepped into frame. Only its legs were visible, thin, elongated, covered in what looked like wet cloth or peeling skin. The feet didn't make sound, but the surface of the black water rippled with every step. It walked around the chair slowly, deliberately, like it was inspecting the room for the first time. It stopped facing the open door. A long moment passed. Then it stepped through and disappeared into the dark. I should have felt relief, but all I felt was dread, because I understood something, deep in my gut, without evidence, without reason. Whatever it was, it had left the room, and now it was somewhere else. I unplugged the laptop, shoved it in the kitchen drawer. I threw a blanket over the webcam. Then I left. I walked 4 blocks to the nearest bar and ordered a whiskey at 3:30 in the afternoon. The bartender didn't ask questions. I stayed there for hours, ate 2 microwave cheeseburgers, took shots with strangers, laughed too loudly at bad jokes, pretended I was okay. By the time I got home, it was past midnight. I stepped into the apartment and froze. All the lights were off. I never left them off. I couldn't. I reached for the switch just inside the door, flicked it. Nothing. Breaker? I used my phone's flashlight to find the panel near the kitchen. All switches normal. Nothing tripped. I turned around to head for the office. The laptop screen was glowing through the blanket, a dim, pulsing light, like something underneath was breathing. I didn't move closer. I just watched it from across the room. The blanket shifted slightly, tugged by something unseen, just a ripple like a breeze had brushed past. Then my speakers hissed to life, not from the laptop, from the wall-mounted ones, the ones that shouldn't even have power. A voice crackled through them, as clear as if it were whispering directly into my ear. More, that's all it said. One word. Stretched, wet, distant. I turned, left the room, closed the door. I slept in the bathtub with the shower curtain pulled around me, knife in hand, light from my phone illuminating the tile. In the morning, the blanket was gone. The webcam was back on the desk, facing the door again. I didn't remember falling asleep, but I woke up in the bathtub with my back aching and the phone light dead. The apartment was silent, the kind of silence that feels intentional, like the building itself was holding its breath. I sat up slowly, every muscle stiff from sleeping on porcelain. The knife was still in my hand. I don't even remember gripping it through the night. For a minute, I just sat there, not wanting to open the curtain. I knew the layout of my own apartment. I knew no one was in the bathroom, but still the space behind the thin plastic sheet felt occupied. I pulled it back, empty. The air was stale and warm, like the vents had stopped working, like the air was done circulating. The moment I stepped out into the hallway, I felt it. Something was different. The layout was the same. Same scuffed laminate floors, same crooked hallway rug, same faint smell of old coffee from the counter, but the apartment felt tighter, smaller, like the walls had shifted in the night, like the space was contracting by degrees. I peeked into the office. The laptop was on again. The screen showed the chair, the concrete room, but the feed had changed. The camera had moved. It was no longer facing the chair from the front. Now it was off to the side, almost behind it, like someone had picked it up and turned it, slowly, deliberately. The chair was empty. The door in the concrete wall was wide open now. The shadows behind it had receded, not revealing what was beyond, but hinting at more, at depth. I could make out shapes now, straight lines, walls, maybe a corridor stretching back into deeper space. The concrete wasn't clean anymore. It was cracked and wet. The water was deeper, rippling, like it was being disturbed. Then something floated across the surface. I leaned closer. It was a paper. No, not paper, a photograph. It drifted on the black water like a dead leaf, spinning gently. When it turned toward the camera, I could make out what was on it. It was me, sleeping in the bathtub. Same position, same curtain pulled halfway shut, same clothes. The webcam feed trembled. The lights in my office buzzed, then went out. For a split second, the laptop showed not the concrete room, but my office again. My chair, my shelves, but the door behind me in the feed, it was open. I turned around, still closed. But it felt like something was there, on the other side, listening. I powered down the laptop, fully shut it off this time, pulled the battery, unplugged it, carried it into the kitchen and stuffed it under the sink. Then I took the webcam, wrapped it in duct tape, stuffed it in a shoebox, wrapped that box in another towel, and crammed the whole thing in my backpack. I drove 3 towns over and threw it off a bridge into the river. Didn't watch it sink, Didn't wait around, just turned the car around and didn't look in the rearview mirror once. I stayed at a motel that night. Cheap place, fluorescent lighting that buzzed overhead, and a TV bolted to the dresser that only played static. I didn't care. I needed distance. I didn't sleep. I kept the lights on. I kept the door bolted. At 2:44 a.m. my phone vibrated. No number, no caller ID, no ringtone. Just a video file, no message, no subject. I waited a full hour before opening it. I shouldn't have. The video was short, 15 seconds. A low-resolution, grainy black and white clip. It showed a room with concrete walls and a water-covered floor. The chair was gone. In its place, centered under the light, was a new object, a mirror, and in that mirror, dim and flickering, was me. Not present-day me, not my reflection, but me sitting at my desk, staring into a screen. I watched as my image leaned forward, slowly, and whispered something into the camera. There was no sound. The clip ended. I stared at the last frozen frame for a long time, my face, mouth open, eyes wide, and just behind me, rising in the corner of the room, was the edge of something tall and impossibly thin. I turned off the phone, took out the SIM card, snapped it in half and flushed it. Then I left the motel. I didn't go back to my apartment. I didn't even go back to my car. I walked, just walked, for hours until the sun came up. That was 3 days ago. I'm in another city now, staying in cheap hostels, paying cash, using fake names. I haven't used a phone since. No screens, no cameras, no reflections, no connections. But sometimes when I sleep, and I don't do that often, I see that room again. Only now, I'm in it. Not sitting in the chair, not floating in the water. I'm watching from behind the camera, and the chair is empty, waiting, just waiting, for someone new to sit down and face whatever opens that door.